Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
All right, another episode of Scrap Life. You guys know at this point, like, I only fuck with people that got hustle. Like we talked about it earlier. Like I'm tired. If you are in this business and you're a go-getter and you're like getting shit done, like then A, I want to talk to you. B, I want to be friends with you. And C, I want to do business with you, right? So I'm sitting here with Blake Dorsett and John Wright from ShearWorx. Nice enough to invite me to this nice office, man. You guys are living right over here. I like it. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you coming down here and appreciate your time as well.
So give me like I know it's like a side note, but this is like kind of what you call like innovative co-working type space, like where you got tech guys in here and just kind of a bunch of. I mean, it's a huge building, right? Would you say it was the old Sears building?
It was the old Sears building.
Yeah, it's the old Sears building. It's a partnership between the city and the university here in town to try to promote startup activity. So all kinds of businesses from engineering to tech to, guys are cutting up scrap metal.
Yeah. So it's like your corporate office, and then you guys have your big shop where you're doing all your maintenance and everything else on your equipment. You said like 20 miles from here?
Yeah, it's 30 minutes from here. It's where we keep, that's our ops office. That's where we, basically keep equipment, parts, and things like that. Move equipment in off separate jobs or whatever. It's coming back through town.
Yeah.
We'll bring in to be able to give it a little bit of a tune-up, get the blades back rolling and build up and that type of thing.
And we'll get, I can't wait to get into that just because that's more my speed, like that side of it on the equipment side and what it takes to actually run a business, and especially the size that you guys are. But what's more interesting to me, is the power of LinkedIn, right? The power of social media, the power is how you and I met. Right? It's how I've met a lot of people, but it's definitely how you and I met. And I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a company. And I feel like I'm pretty well versed in this industry, but even I, who feel like I know what's going on, didn't know there was a company out there that will bring a shear to a small, medium-sized yard, and we'll get into what you guys do on a national level, on a bigger basis. But there was a company out there that could bring a shear in, cut. What did you guys think? You cut like 3,000 ton for us in our yard within like a month. I mean, you guys went through that like a hot knife through butter. But the only reason I knew that is because of LinkedIn, because you reached out to me and said, "Hey, Brett, I got a shear up in your area." So tell that story. Like we were just talking about earlier, like how you and I met. I'm super, just for everybody out there.
Yeah, we were actually doing a job there in Plymouth. We was cutting up a lot of rail cars for a customer, and it was getting close to the end. Mm-hmm. Was trying to figure out, here we are in Birmingham, Alabama, to try to figure out, okay, we're out west here in Plymouth, Utah. All right, how can we start working the machine back to where it needs to go? So I was talking with the customers and saying, "Hey, you know anybody around here?" "Yeah, I got a guy." "Brett Eckhart." I said, "All right, if you don't mind, share me his number." So I think that's when I contacted you, and you started talking.
And we started going through the numbers, right?
That's exactly right.
We kind of, I said, you guys go by the ton. You go, and you're like, no. Like, we don't do it that way.
That's right.
Like, we do it this way.
Right.
And it kind of took me a minute because the old school way of doing it, and I say old school because, hey, this is what it costs you per ton to do something. And that's the way we can kind of calculate it out, as facility owners, like, oh, this is what but until you guys actually come in and start cutting, and you kind of said, "I can do this and I can do that," and I was like, man, if this guy can do all the shit he says he can do, then I'll believe it when I see it. Like, I was kind of like, I'm that guy, right? Like, if that steak's that good, I'm gonna try and see
that's
it.
Right. That's right.
And I'll be dipped if you didn't do it faster than you said you could do it.
Well, and that's one of the things that we try to do. Like the story I was telling you. We try to do things a little different. And when me and you started talking about on the day rate deal, I believed in our system and our people and things that we put out there. And I knew it was going to work. And it was being able to, of course, get you to buy in that it would work, then us getting out there to do the job. And it actually worked out, and which I knew it would work out. But
well, you cut a lot of iron before you met me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it worked out to be a pretty good deal because we cut 3 yards.
Yeah,
moved around there.
Cut our twin yard too.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it worked out awesome for me, and I just want people to know like that's how you and I met and became friends, right? But I'm super curious, just for everybody else out there, how the two of you meet. Like, tell me like kind of the origin of ShearWorx. Like, how did it start? That's what I want to know.
I'll jump in there. I know I was doing a big rail job not far, north of town here. And at the time when I was in the business process, where we come from, you can't rent material handlers back then. So I was in need of a material handler. We was cutting a lot of rail cars, trying to load scrap. So I called one of the dealers we dealt with, and I said, hey, I'm looking to rent a material handler. Well, we don't rent material handlers. I said, okay. He said, but I know a guy that's got one. Which that guy was John at the time, So I ended up calling John, and we got to talking with each other, and ended up renting me the material handler, and I kept it for. It's really never left.
Never left.
It's
Yeah,
never
that's
left.
right.
So I stayed on that job for a good while, and.
Yeah, it was, and you called me at the right time. I was in the process of getting, I'd been in the garbage business for about 10 years. And along the way, it ended up in the recycling business, shearing scrap, shredding scrap. And anyway, part of my deal getting out of that was that I could continue on doing things in that world, in the recycling world. And met you leasing equipment. So I still had some specialty equipment. So material handlers, shears, I still had a shredder at the time. But yeah, we got to know each other through leasing some equipment to you, and pretty quickly thereafter, we partnered on a couple jobs, and I was like, man, the world I came out of was scaling businesses, and there was a big opportunity there for what you were doing, and so that was the beginning. And that was 2019?
Yeah, 2019. Yep. And I was already in the scrap business, and I started in scrap business through trucking.
Yeah. Tell me that, because that's intriguing to me. So you started on the trucking side.
Yeah, I started on the trucking side. My first truck that I ever bought, give $4,500 for it. I had to go to the bank to get a loan to be able to get it. My dad was in the trucking business, and he was in the freight company. So I bought a freight truck and went to the bank, got a loan for it, and I ended up borrowing a flatbed. I started off hauling cross ties, and after it dried up, then I was going to go in the scrap business. Well, I found a scrap trailer at a local scrap yard here that they had in the scrap yard. They was fixing to scrap it, and I said, I want to buy that trailer. And they said, no, look, you're not going to buy that trailer. I said, yeah, I want to buy it. I can put it on the road. No. Long story short, I ended up buying it for $7,500. So I ended up getting a $10,000 loan because it's an aluminum dump trailer. Yeah. It was beat to pieces, Yeah. So I had to go and get that extra money to put a steel liner in it. So I ended up buying that, going to get the loan on it, not sweating, not knowing what am I fixing to do here? How am I going to sit here and even pay for this thing? It was $250 a month or whatever, paid $300, whatever it was. I was sweating it, So I started there at the local company and started running their scrap, and one thing led to, and I bought another truck. So, and that's how I sort of got started in the scrap business, and that's how I was able, word of mouth, find out, who different players were to build the customers that I was working with. So long story short, I ended up selling all my trucks, and I bought my first shear and machine together for $60,000.
What kind of machine?
It was a Komatsu.
Exactly what you would think for $60,000.
Yep. It was what we call a rolling total.
Yeah.
It was something that, oh man, this thing's going to be good. It was $60,000 I bought it, and still have that shear to this day.
Really?
Don't have the carrier. Carrier was.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying it, and the first week the rotate motor went out on the cab, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, man, what am I going to do now? Got a bunch of buddies of mine. We all got together and ended up fixing it. And went along 3 more weeks, and I had a guy come out there and tell me, he said, look at my shear. He said, Blake, he said, you fixing to be in trouble. I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, if you don't do build up on this thing, you're going to see what trouble's going to be. It was almost wore down to the guide blade bolts. That's how much buildup it needed.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up having to bite the bullet, and it stayed in the shop and spent $35,000 on just welding. Over 40 hours of welding.
Hard face,
all that kind of good stuff. So the shear side of it, I had to learn the hard way on the shear side. You know, I didn't know nothing about. No, I know it's cut and scrap. I can do that. You know?
Yeah.
So actually got that up and going, and got that back in the mix, and ended up selling the carrier, buying another one, and thought it was going to be a big bad, and it was a small machine as well. But I didn't know sizes. You know, it was an upgrade from what I had.
So are you first generation, second generation?
When I come into the scrap, none of my family was in the scrap. You know, my dad was a truck driver. My granddad.
So you were a second generation truck driver.
That's exactly right.
And then you went down a level to join us in the scrap business.
That's right.
Yeah, I had to learn all of that kind of stuff the hard way for sure. You know, so I've had to learn the hard way, and just listening and learning and looking and talking and all that kind of thing. So, you know, ended up getting that one. Then I bought another machine. And when me and John met up is when I had
2019.
Yeah, 2019. I had 3 shears going, and there goes to our story where me and John met.
John, give me a little bit of background. I'm curious. How does a guy go from waste, from landfills to scrap to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I had never sold. I don't think I knew what scrap metal was when I got in the garbage business, but I bought a landfill during the financial crisis here in Birmingham. And we made our bank payment the first probably year we had guys on the ground with boots and gloves and just the old fashioned way, dump a load out, go through a roll off load, pull all the scrap metal out, stick it in a dumpster, haul it to the scrap yard.
Yeah.
And that was the first scrap I'd ever messed with. Ended up hiring the guy that was our buyer at Schnitzer, who we were selling to. I was like, man, I like this. This is pretty cool, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so we got scales, we got everything we need to start buying some scrap. And so we did. We started brokering some loads we'd buy like 2 I-beams and stick them on a borrowed flatbed and, you know, haul them over from Georgia and make $1,000 on. I'm like, dang, that is awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of grew from there. Most of my scrap business up until partnering with Blake was really in conjunction, all in support of our waste business. And so we recycled paper, plastics, a little bit of tire recycling that you and I talked about, but kind of jumped off the deep end in metal recycling in 2012 and bought a small shredder, which the timing was miserable on. But you learn a lot of stuff during those times, you know, and I think along the way, no matter what business you're in, you realize you're like, you know what, that's a good little niche right there. And I've got a spreadsheet where I put numbers together to do exactly what Blake and I are doing now back in 2012, long before he and I had met. And
so the niche was processing for somebody else.
Running shears, running mobile shears for other folks. And I think for me, I like the service business. I like it more than owning the commodity. And, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, Blake and I have learned. It's like, it's important not to compete with your customer. And so we're not in the business of buying and selling scrap. In fact, we do everything we can do not to be the owners of whatever it is we're cutting.
For sure. That was one of the things like I appreciated, like when we first met and you're like, hey man, like I'm here just to cut and process, you know, the more I can cut for you, the more you can buy, the more you can make, and I'm not in your business, right? I mean, Nick and I have had this conversation about some of our demolition customers. Like, I don't want to be in the demolition business. I want to support the demo guy, right? I want to bring a shear in, bring the trucks, the trailers, and so you guys go. I don't want to take any food off your plate. Put as much food on there.
That's
right. I'm gonna help you eat it, right?
That's right.
But put as much food on there as you want. I don't want to be the guy to take it off unless you ask me to come in and do something. Because I think that's important, and I think that like what you guys have, like one of the reasons why I was excited to do this podcast is because you guys crush it on a operations level, but I don't think that a lot of people know exactly what you do, right? And I know what you do because we've been down the path, right? Like I brought you into the yards. Now, I think there's some big players out there that are using your services today, because I know for a fact when you guys met, you had 3 shears, and today you have
we have 30 plus shears in the fleet as of now.
And you don't have 30 plus shears because you're not working them, right? Because everybody knows the cost of a shear, especially the size of shears that you guys are running. Everything from a 995.
And we got a 2055, that's the biggest one that we have. Then we got 1500, we got some 1000s, 995s, all the way down to a 400 size.
Yeah.
So we got quite a good range of different size shears.
So when I think about partnerships and whatever else, I mean, the only way those work, in my opinion, is you probably have to have like some kind of clear lanes, right? Like the road goes the same direction, but like here's your lane and here's your lane. I mean, how do you guys divide up like what happens on a daily basis? I mean, what's your lane and what's your lane, John?
Well, I'll go from when I first started.
Yeah.
I was just a guy, hey, I knew I just wanted to get out there. I just wanted to make money. I just wanted to get out there and try to make a go out of it. Did I have systems? Not the first one.
Yeah.
I had a notebook that I wrote with me, and if I had a conversation, I wrote some of that kind of stuff down. So, that was, and I think that's where me and John's been good at. I knew I wanted to get out to there. I wanted to be on the ground. I wanted to be in the operations. I wanted to be face of the customers. I wanted to make all this stuff happen. Mm-hmm. But to where we are now, John was able to come in, and when we partnered up, I mean, he was at a big, corporation that he had and things. He had systems and stuff put in place. He knew how to build it to, all right, it's 3. All right, look, we're going to 6. Now we're going to 12. He had all of that. He was able to show me that path forward, to be able to put things in place for us to be able to scale where we are today. So, I mean, that's where I think on our job, our roles in the ShearWorx, that's where I look at it, once we're every single day we talk about decisions and things like that. We're, it's not just a one path, this is all you do, type deal. So we talk on a daily basis.
I think one of the things that, Blake and I both have in common is that I got started sleeping on the floor at our first landfill for months on an airbed, and so when you start like that, where you're just, literally living in the operation, you learn the ins and the outs. And so, Blake is a phenomenal operations guy. And, I enjoy the operations world, but honestly, the scaling part is the part that I really enjoy the most. And so it's been awesome. Blake's done a just killer job getting out there, getting our name out there, and just performing on the work. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are at systems and processes and marketing and any of that. It comes down to it. You gotta just do the work. You gotta cut the scrap. Yeah. It's all about tons in and tons out. And so that's where, it's a great partnership between the two of us.
And I think that there's a support mechanism that all those interline, the marketing and the this and the that. But the reality of it is the customer only sees, did you get done, what you said you're going to get done, and B, did you perform, and at like what level of integrity, honesty, and all those things, right? And I think even for me, like I do podcasts like mostly with people I do business with, or I have a relationship with, or like I have some interest in trying to figure out what they're doing or how they're doing something. But that was probably even my biggest hurdle to get over. It was like, so you're going to come in here, you're going to charge me X amount of money per day, and you're going to just cut, and I got to trust you that you're going to cut for me.
That's right.
Yeah, and I was like, and we talked, we went back and forth for a while. I was like, how many tons do you think you could cut? And I'm like, this kind of iron, like this,
That's right.
like,
yep,
and it was
for sure.
And it's a unique hurdle to get over, because our industry is old school, right? But like things are changing, like mindsets are changing, like there's just a lot of things that are moving, and I think that's one of them is like, we talk about like a day rate, a ton rate, and I've had guys come in and run torching crews in our yard, right? Outside torching crews. And they say, we're going to cut it for X amount of ton. And I say, okay. And then they got 4 guys there. And then one day they got 1 guy there. And then they got 2 guys that got to go on. And you're like, even if I'm only getting if I'm getting a steal of a deal on the per ton basis, it doesn't do me any good because I've got space tied up, I've got oxygen bleeding off, I've got all these things.
The market moving.
The market's moving either, one way or the other. I've got more scrap coming in. And so when I think about it, I'm like, the per ton figures in, but only if you got enough guys to keep up with the flow.
That's exactly right.
The tons coming in,
Absolutely.
so you can keep up with your trucks and the tons going out. And I think that's kind of like something that our industry's had to. We talk about it on the marketing side a lot. Like as an industry, we need to be better about marketing ourselves, like all the positivity that we're doing, right, for our local communities on the national level, country, like putting recycled steel back into the system. But I think there's a few other things that have to be kind of thought through, and it's like uptime, right? Socko and I have this conversation all the time. Like, what's one of Sierra's biggest advantages? Like, their parts.
Yeah, for sure.
The fucking parts. They I mean, their machines are what they are. Ford, Dodge, Chevy. Like, they don't make a good truck, but can you service that equipment? Can the part be there? Can I get back on the road? Can I get my equipment back up and running? Which is one thing, that you guys have talked about, I mean, the volume of parts that you stock for that reason, right? I mean, give me a little bit of a lay of the land on your shears and your parts and your service and kind of how that works for you.
Well, I know we try to standardize what we basically run to make that parts keeping a lot easier.
Yeah.
We try to standardize the equipment. We standardize the shears that we run, which is allow us, no matter where we're at, we're going to keep blades, at our office. I mean, one time we've had 40 to 50 sets of blades on hand, to be able to eliminate the downtime. We've had cylinders, swivels, region blocks, even shears available, and when you go to somewhere, if you're trying to sell on the uptime, hey, we're going to come in here and we're going to process. We're going to have spare things that's going to come with that machine, as in a set of blades.
Yeah.
Things like, of course, you can't have everything. Equipment's going to break, so you're definitely going to need those parts. And one of the things that we try to do is to stock that stuff to where you can get it there overnight, maybe a day, something like that, to where you're not down months at a time, weeks at a time, and things like that. If we're sitting there, we go to a new customer and we put a machine out there, and next thing you know, we're 2 days in and we're sitting there down because of a region block or something like that. Well, by the time we call, try to get somewhere, let me go in and get it shield.
Nobody wins. Nobody's winning in that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're not processing the scrap for the customer. Yeah. It's not we're not making money because we're not working.
Yeah, you can't bill them for hours you're not working.
Absolutely. So we try to keep the normal wear parts and stuff like that we know just by the shears that we've been running, the amount of shears, we got a system in place because we know what's going to come. We know in 3,500 hours, you better be getting that cylinder out to be able to get it resealed. If you're getting it out to reseal, we're going to have another one put in there. Well, that one's going to be resealed.
Yeah.
To eliminate the downtime, because it sucks for everybody.
100%.
For us and the customer.
Yeah.
You're not getting the tons processed, which they're still bringing tons in. If you're not being able to process it for them to ship it out, that's tough on their end.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, nobody wins in the fact that a lot of people are like, well, at least, if they only cut 50 ton today, then I guess I only have to pay for 50 ton. But you bought 100.
Absolutely.
If you bought 100 ton and only 50 got cut, now you got 50, and now you're falling behind, right?
Yep, sure.
Right. And then all of a sudden, I've heard it said, Jay Rabinovich says it, at Alter, and I've heard George Adams say it. We shred the ground we want to shred the ground every day. We want to sell against the market we're buying in, right? Well, it's hard to sell against the market you're buying in, whether you're a mill or a scrapyard or whatever, if your shit's unprepared. And I'd rather have a pile of prepared iron, because I know if I can get trucks or rail cars, that's as good as gone, right? Yep. But if that's unprepared to sit there in a big ass pile, that's just dead money.
Absolutely.
Well, the other thing you don't want to do is to have your buyers take their foot off the throttle buying scrap because you're worried you can't get it out the back door.
Yeah.
And so, just having confidence that you're going to get the tons out like you're talking about. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's the difference in, maybe an extra 10% on the buy side that you have the confidence to actually pull the trigger on.
Yeah, especially, nobody has a crystal ball on like where the market goes or like what's going on. But ultimately, if you're not hedging, which most people on the ferrous side are not hedging, so your hedge is your ability to get material out the door, right? Yeah. And most as much as a lot of us would like to believe the material's coming in prepared, ready to go, like that shit ain't coming in prepared. Like, it's gotta, like that's why we have all the equipment we do. But much like I think about your business, and if I'm wrong, don't shoot me, but still buy me dinner. Or I'll buy you dinner. But if it's similar to like a reason why a trucking company has, we own trucks, right? We're a trucking company, but I still use, I don't know, we probably 20% of the loads outbound we run through brokers, right? So I still have the ability to move material, but I still bring in an outside source because I can't move all of it, right? So I feel like your guys' business has kind of evolved to help. You might have started with the smaller, scrap processor, the small metal recyclers, and then you guys have kind of started to move up the food chain a little bit into some of these, larger outfits, steel mills that need help on the processing side. And has that really been like the catalyst for your guys' like growth lately?
Yeah, I would say it is. Of course, that's, like we talked about earlier, that's a place that you want to, everybody's got goals. Yeah. And you want to set your goals, and that's our goal to be able to get to that point. And we've gotten into that, we've got a few places that we're doing that right now. But in the end goal, that's where it is, to be able to work on the larger volumes, to be able to put our services out there to show that I know this is something that we can do. This is something that we eat and breathe. This is what we do. It's processing. Yeah. Any material handling, processing, this is what we do across the board. And so I think that is, that's the goal to where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. We love the longer term opportunities when they're there. And honestly, they are easier on us and the customer because mobilization is not insignificant when you're talking about moving machines around the country. Exactly. And so as our footprint's grown and we've had more machines available scattered around, it gets a little bit easier. You're moving, hopefully not everything's coming from Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah. But still, Mobe's a big deal. And so the longer we're there, the easier it is to average that cost over tons.
So really, like for you guys, the where you guys provide, I say that the best service, wherever you guys go, you guys are going to provide, a great service. But where your sweet spot really is somebody that's consistently bringing in pretty good volume of tons that need processed, and whether it's a steel mill to be reprocessed, or say a larger volume yard who they can put their buyers out there and say, go buy the tons. Yep. We know we can process them. We can use some of our equipment over here on, say, the stationary shear side and the shredder side. We've got, ShearWorx over here, processing, cutting, whatever extra tons you guys can bring in. And it's a consistency level, right? So you're not having to mob.
Yep.
Correct.
That's right.
Yep, for sure. And I think like we talked about earlier, you was asking, how do you fit into a situation like that? If a yard's buying 9,000 tons and they got the buyers out there, but they got the capability of buying 12,000 tons. Yeah. Guess what? We want to be, we look at it as a partnership. We want to try to get in there and lock arms. Hey, you can depend on us to get in there to help you get to where you can bring in 12,000 tons. We want to be in there, lock arms. Let's get in there. Let's get this out. But it all starts with trust. Once they get in there, they trust the system that we do it. They know, hey, okay, these guys right here, we know they're going to get after it. They're going to get after it. So that puts, all right, buyers or whoever it may be might have a customer that they used to deal with. Now they kind of, we can't deal with it because we can't get the material out. That's some of the things that, I think that we can try to add value to a facility to help them process the tons, or if it needs to be even on the burner side, or a material handler. We run all of those type things to be able to help somebody to reach another goal that they're trying to reach.
Well, we like to say we're right-sized. I mean, you're right. We started with, really small local scrap yards.
Yeah.
But more than half of our revenue comes from on-site work at steel mills now. But we've also got customers that have a couple of burners.
Yeah.
In one location, and that works too. And
there's like a custom fit operation for whatever the customer needs.
Absolutely.
It's more of a custom dialed in. Absolutely. There's no plan A, plan B, or plan C, and nothing else works.
That's right.
100%.
We really come in almost like consultants. We come in and they say, "Here's the problem we got." Blake, me, some of our team will come in, walk the yard, look at the issue, and figure out what is the most optimal way to process that scrap. What's the right size machine? What are the support needs? That can be a huge deal for us. Just in how many tons you can get in and out is how well is it supported. And so whether the yard or the mill is going to support us themselves, or we bring our own equipment in to support ourselves, we kind of come in there and just assess that whole thing and say, this is what we think you need. What's your goal? How many tons do you need to get out?
Yeah.
And then we just kind of, we right size the operation for whatever that goal is.
The
great news is we can scale it up and down a little bit too.
That's right.
We come into a lot of situations where customers gotten really behind. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of reasons why they get behind, but they're behind. And so we'll throw a bunch of resources at it, get them caught up to some level, and then we can scale that back a little bit and try to keep, a machine or two out there for the long haul.
Yeah.
But those are all, it's all according to what the customer is trying to accomplish.
I think about it like the way like we quote say a car crushing job, right? Like let's say there's 20 loads of car bodies there. In my mind, say, okay, and it's the middle of the month. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to gauge my price off of how many cars I can crush, how many cars I can deliver to the shredder this month, trying to figure out which way the market's going to go so I know, kind of give myself a buffer. Or if I know I can get all those cars out this month, I know what I can pay, and it's probably, I'll be more aggressive on the number, which probably is going to give me a better shot of buying the scrap, right? Yep. So when I think about it, like the difference, say, a buyer that can buy 10,000 ton and a buyer that say, I can feel comfortable buying 12 or 14 because I know I can get those tons processed, loaded on a ship or loaded by rail, whatever, I can get them out, then that's a crazy advantage on the buy side.
Yes.
Like people think about the processing that what you guys do is an advantage like on the sell side, but like there is a really big advantage on the buy side because it's a confidence level that you're gonna be able to get.
Yeah,
And like so, let's say if I show up and you got a shear or two at my yard or my my facility, my mill, and I'm like, okay, I've got XYZ, I got a big demo job coming up. Like I'm gonna get 5,000 ton extra this month for the next 5 months because I got this huge demo I got the bid on. Then you guys could bring in 2-3 more shears, set them down for the next 5 months, knowing I can get that material through.
100%.
We've seen that with the steel mills too. Brett, is that some of the mills, since we've been in there, have been able to up the percentage of their own internal home scrap that they melt, which helps them not have to go into the market and buy tons.
Yeah,
which is a huge deal for them, right? But it's a confidence thing too, right? I mean, they're not going to run out of scrap, and so it gives them the confidence to go. You know what? If we can move that needle up from 9% to 12%, well, that moves the needle for them cost wise, having to go out and buy the tons instead of remelting.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that was kind of like one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast more than anything was just because you guys do have like an interesting niche, like it's. That not a lot of people maybe understand or know or kind of understand like all the aspects. And so that's why I was like, dude, people need to know. Like they need to know like this is even an available service. But like what made you guys think that like what was the light bulb moment for you that you're like, hey, like there's something here that's not getting done, or what was that thing, or is it just straight up like I just want to get a shear and like go make some money?
I knew on when I first started, I was like, man, there's like I said, I knew nothing about scrap. It was zero.
Yeah,
I understood we had
I
had to cut it up. It goes to the mill, type deal. So even when me and John got together, me and John looked back, I know on my part, we sat there and look at. I'm sitting there thinking, man, we had 3. I had 3 of them going. Would I ever thought we're running 35 shears right now and fixing to add more and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I looked back and I was like, I knew it could be out there. And me and John talk about it. I said, I knew we could do it because I knew there was something out there. I knew that was pain point that people had.
Yeah.
I said, but, growing it the way we have right now, I said, I probably wouldn't have thought we'd be to the point to where we are right now.
Yeah.
But that goes back to believing in what you're doing, and having the relationship, locking arms, and building trust. I mean, building trust with people, I think, is a big time to understand that you're coming in there, telling them about the services that you got, and actually doing the work that you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's my take on it for sure.
Was there like a light bulb moment for you? Like you said, you kind of started putting some spreadsheets together. You knew there was.
That was a long. Back in 2012, I did that. But really, when Blake and I started cutting for these guys, you go on site, and you talk to the customers, and I think what I realized was there were some very large mill service companies out there, 4 or 5 of them, and they were really good at processing slag. And that was kind of the world they played in. And scrap metal was, and processing the scrap seemed to kind of be an ancillary thing for them. Mm-hmm. Then there were some smaller operations that had some burners, maybe a few shears, but there was kind of this middle territory where nobody really seemed to either have the expertise. Maybe the smaller guys had some expertise, but they couldn't scale to the bigger opportunities. And the big guys, this was kind of an afterthought for them. Mm-hmm. And so we would go in, and almost every yard that we would go to, somebody was unhappy with their processing. And, we just, I don't know, I don't think there was any big epiphany, but it was just the more we did it, the more we realized, there was an opportunity in the market for a high quality service provider.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we just started small. We're like, you know what, for us to do this and to do it really well, we're going to have a good name. Like there's an old proverb that says a good name's better than great riches.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're going to do this and we're going to have a good name doing it. And if we can't do it really well, we're not going to do it at all. And so we set our business model up that way, like really early on, and priced it that way and staffed it that way and gave it a whirl with a few shears and decided if it doesn't work, we're going to go out of business quick and do something different.
That's right. Well, and ultimately, from 19 to say 24, 4 years working on the 5th year as a partnership, I assume. You guys have scaled. Depends on who you talk to. You could say exponentially quick, or you guys have scaled at a pace that you guys can still do good work, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
and I think that, that speaks to, I think it speaks to your relationship, but it speaks to the fact that you want to do good work.
That's right. That's right. 100%. And I think that's, you could go and throw a lot of resources out at a lot of things, but you want to throw the right resources to be able to do a good job. Type deal. So I'll agree with you there for sure. We've grown at a pace to where I think we believed in what we were doing. We knew it was the process worked, and we've been able to grow it. You'd get to a point and say, okay, we either got to do something, or next thing you know, all right, we move to the next level.
And we've just made a commitment that we're not going to grow any faster than we can do it really well.
That's right, 100%.
And so, and that's what we've kind of stuck to and plan to continue to stick to.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no reason to get ahead of ourselves on this thing.
No, I think I've said this to a lot of people. I've said it for a long time. This is why I was never afraid to put what we were doing on social media, because anybody can go buy a piece of property, and anybody can go buy all the fancy Centibogans and material handlers and shears and all the shit you want, right? And you set up right next door to me. Yep. But you still got to beat me at what I'm good at, which is doing what I said I'm going to do. I got good people to run the equipment. And if you can beat me at all that, then you deserve to win. But no quality equipment is going to beat me. No, better location is going to beat me. Right. At the end of the day, you got to have all the things, and then you got to have the people and the integrity to back the deal up.
That's right. That's right, 100%. And that's just like always, people are like, well, why don't you get in this? Why don't you get in this? We stick to our lane.
That's right.
This is what we do. We process scrap. We run shears. We process and handle scrap. That's what we do. We don't get off, let's try this, let's try that, and all that kind of good stuff. We stick to our lane, and that's what we do. That's what we eat, breathe, and sleep.
That's right.
Every week we have production meetings every Tuesday. We have sales meeting after that. We got every single thing that systems put in place just to keep us on that path.
And that production meeting is we go account by account and go, well, how was production? Did we hit our numbers?
Yeah.
And so we just keep everybody in the company all the way down to the operators who are incentivized to hit their numbers. All the way, from top to bottom, focused on tons in and tons out.
Yeah.
Because that's really like what you guys are hanging your hat on is, because if you guys are going to kind of reverse the model and around, right? That's truly what you're doing is you're saying, like, we don't believe in the per ton because we believe in this is what we know we can do. We're going to put good equipment. We're going to put good guys, and we're going to process scrap, right? If you're going to do that and you're going to hang your hat on that, then you better be damn good at what you do.
Yep.
That's right. 100%.
That's right. The great news is, like Blake said, if you own a scrap yard, you got to be good at a whole bunch of different things. You got to purchase well, you got to sell well, you got to operate well, you got to bail, and all the things you're doing, right? For us, this is all we do. Yeah. And we process scrap metal and the things that support that process.
Yep.
Like you guys aren't the Swiss Army knife with the little baby scissors and the little tweezer.
Right.
Like you guys are the fucking Bowie knife.
That's
right?
exactly right. We get in there and get after it, the whole 9 yards.
You have the one knife and that sucker sharp, and you're like, this is what we are. Like,
100%.
we don't have all the tools, right?
And every now and then you got to put it on a wet rock and re-shorten it a little bit, for sure. So that's sort of where we're at, And there's other things. We do a lot of mobile jobs. Hey, a company that we do business with, hey, I got a job that's coming up. It might be 2,500 tons. It's an off-site job. Well, guess what? They don't want to, their equipment's on their processing at their yard. Hey, guess what? Yeah, they can go out and rent this, rent that, try to put operators in there. So we help out on that side as well.
Yeah.
Hey, we can
Same
go
with
in
rail
there.
cars. Same with cutting rail cars.
Yeah, same with cutting rail cars. We cut a lot of rail cars. Same exact thing. We'll go in there, on site, wherever it is, whatever the customer, Blake, if you got rail cars you want to sit there and cut them, hey, Blake, this is size we want to cut, hey, get after it. So we do that a lot too. And, customers want to keep parts and things like that. So whatever they want to keep, however they want to do it, they're going to pave the path for us. So, hey, I want this, and this. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that we do, along with just trying to work at yards and things like that. Off-site jobs. We'll mow in, a material handler, shear, burners, supply trucks, whatever we need to do.
Whatever the opportunity that presents itself,
Absolutely.
right? It goes back to being a custom cutting operation.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's customized to fit, what you can do.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different things that I still learn stuff every day. There's a lot of different opportunities and things that you can process that years ago, I didn't even know what they were. You sit there, can y'all cut ingots? What's an ingot? The next thing you know, you look at a big slab or something like that. Now we've done so much of it.
We use robotic torches to cut ingots all the time.
Yeah, we've been versatile to be able to basically stay open-minded. What I mean? We're not say we can say, we can do everything. Well, we can go out there and look at it. And that's where I like to go. I like to walk the yard. Let's see, okay, if you're using burners for cutting this right here, and I'm sitting there thinking, golly, you got 4 burners cutting right there, and I'm sitting there running through the numbers. All right, 4 burners, he's doing gas, oxygen, burners and all that. I'm sitting there running through the numbers. I said, I sure can cut that easy.
Yeah.
Now you're eliminating the safety factor. We're always going to have burners. Everybody, Shear's not going to cut everything.
No,
everybody knows that. So you got to have burners.
And we do. We run a bunch of burners.
And things like that, right?
Have to.
Yeah. We own. We have a bunch of burners that work for us.
Yeah, we own all the equipment, the torches,
right.
all the shit that makes
everything
that world
that goes
go around.
with it. And it's the same thing on the torching side. We're not going to go out there one hose in the torch. We're going to have plenty of tills. We're going to have a backup torch. We're going to have backup hoses just to go to the uptime we talked about.
Yeah.
Just to stay up and going to be able to process scrap. That's what we're there to do, and that's what we're going to do.
So what's I asked you this before, but like what differentiates you guys from the other guy the other mill service company? I think I already know the answer, but because I think you just said it. But
yeah, I think it's the predictable uptime, and it's the tons in and tons out. Having the confidence that when we tell you we're going to do something, the integrity is a huge part of everything we do. And you can know that we're going to bring the right tool in for the job because we came in and we looked at your material. We didn't just say, hey, look, we're a hammer looking for a nail. We got a hammer to sell.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work for you. We're going to take the right piece of equipment with the right people, with the right training, and we're going to process what you got and get the tons out to meet the goals you got.
That's right. And we're going to have the stuff to be able to back up what we're sitting there to be able to tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like what we talked about earlier. We're going to have all the other stuff that goes along with that. You know, we're going to put the stuff out there to make us the most successful that we can be.
Yeah.
You know, to eliminate all the downtime that might come into play.
When something does go wrong, that we've got redundancy there.
That's right.
You know, to bring something else in and keep you going.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about this earlier. It's even if it costs us money, we're going to do it. I mean, because that's what we set out to be able to do. I mean, it's a pride thing, is what I look at. You know, if I sit there from day one when me and you talked, I told you what I was going to do, and we lived up to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pride thing on my end, and I know it is on John. For whatever we sell, we're going to lay out there. It don't matter if it costs us money to move something else there. If it's a failure on a piece of equipment's going to break down. You know, it's going to happen for sure. And if it's something big and whatever we got to do, even if it costs us transportation, we're going to do it. We're going to move stuff in there to keep this operation going. And I think you lived it firsthand with us.
Well, I was going to say mine is like you're the Bowie knife, man. Like if you want shit cut, like call you. Like at the end of the day, like back to it for me is I'm doing this podcast with you. I kind of know your story, but I enjoy like having everybody else like understand what you guys do because you didn't know me from Adam, and I didn't know you from Adam. And it just worked out that you had a shear close to one of my yards that had a few thousand tons that needed cut, and we connected, and it worked out. Everything you said you were going to do, you did, and more. And so I'm like, one of these days, man, I'm going to get your ass on a podcast. And it was like, for 2 years, we've been like back and forth. Like, I see you in Vegas at Isery or Nashville. I'm like, yeah, we're going to get it done.
That's right.
And now you made me drive all the way to goddamn Birmingham, Alabama to get it done. But Nick and I made the trip, and we're happy we did. But honestly, guys, like, thank you for taking the time. I love doing this podcast because there's so many pieces and like facets to our business that people like services or whatever that maybe people not even know exist out there, right? And some of the stuff I've lived firsthand, some of it I'm still learning about every day. But, you know, I appreciate you guys taking the time and it's been good.
It's great to have you in Birmingham.
It's been a good relationship, and this is what I love to do, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming all the way here.
Appreciate you coming all the way down here. And sorry, it's raining here, but at least it's not the white stuff on the ground.
Exactly.
You know, for sure. So we at least got you out of the snow anyway.
Your guys' southern asses. You guys come up to our
So we got you out of that anyway. So at least we're in the 60s today. So at least
60s and rain. We'll be all right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But I appreciate you doing this for us. And
thank you, bro.
Appreciate what you do for us. And
hey, likewise, man. Sure. And someday we're gonna figure some. I'm gonna have some more work for you. If I can buy some scrap in these markets, but I'm gonna get it done.
Might have to talk to Nick about that.
I know. As soon as he's done doing podcasts, we'll actually go buy some scrap again.
But appreciate you guys doing it.
Thank you, fellas.
Yes, thank you guys.
All right.
Yes, sir.